Good evening. So this video I'm gonna tell you about how I used pain to first of all quit smoking weed, which I was addicted to for many years, as well as how I used it to quit other things I was hooked on after quitting weed, as well as how I've used pain just to form new habits, as well as break habits that weren't serving me and just transform habits. So how I used pain to basically change my behavior. So all of our behavior, human behavior, is determined by what we link to pain and what we link to pleasure in our nervous system. So for example, brushing our teeth. We all brush our teeth, I assume. You don't do it, I'm guessing you don't do it because it's pleasurable. Maybe it is pleasurable to you, but I'm gonna assume that the reason you brush your teeth is because you link not doing it to pain. And also, for example, many people do exercise every day, many people do not. I'm gonna suggest that the people who exercise every day link it to pleasure, and perhaps even link not doing it to pain. Maybe they're gonna feel more tired, that kind of thing, foggier, fatter, less energy. They would link that to pain. And I'm gonna also suggest that those who don't exercise regularly and perhaps have always wanted to but just can't bring themselves to do it, it's because they link doing exercise to pain. They link it to pain. They link it to pain and they don't link it to pleasure. Perhaps it's easier not to do it, therefore they link not doing it to pleasure. And so, rather than getting your theoretical, I'm gonna invite you to just kind of check within yourself and come up and think of some habits, behaviors that you're doing that are perhaps hard to break or easy to do consistently, and other habits that you want to do but just haven't been able to get yourself to do them. And just check with that. So you can do that after the video. Writing about it is extremely helpful. How I use that to quit smoking weed. So when I was smoking weed all day, every day, I linked smoking weed to pleasure, and I linked not smoking it to pain. So what I had to do, and I did it extremely successfully, I now link smoking weed to pain, and I link not smoking it and staying free of it, I link that to great pleasure. What I did was I basically tweaked my nervous system, my neuro associations. So whenever I think of smoking weed, before it was pleasure. Now when I think of it, it's pain. So what I've done through repetition is I've formed new neuro pathways. I've literally changed the physicality of my brain just through repetition, through consistent thinking in a certain way. I formed new connections in my brain. So now when I think of X instead of Y coming up, it's automatically that path is broken. Now it comes up to the new path, basically. So how did I do that? There's several ways I've done it. I've shared a couple in the previous videos, but another way which is really incredible to change your behavior. So I'm gonna do the example of weed again. So I again use the pen and paper, really incredible. I asked myself the question, if I continue smoking weed like I am all day, every day, how will life be 10 years from now? And clearly I want to stop. And so the idea of continuing it for another 10 years is just horrible. And so you can ask yourself the question, if I continue doing this for another 10 years, how will my life be in 10 years? How will things be? And then writing about that is incredible. Thinking about it, great, but if you really want to solidify something, make some proper changes, writing is excellent. So how will my life be in 10 years if I continue doing this? And just write it in the present moment and really get in touch with the pain, the emotion of how things will be. So for me, if I continue smoking, if I'm smoking for another 10 years, I'll be 40, and damn, I'll have wasted so much potential, wasted another 10 years. I just, I would stop making these videos because I'll be too like brain dead and zero energy and no confidence, not be able to come up with anything to say. A million reasons that will just be shit. And then we flip it over and link it to. So we link stopping to pain. That's if we want to quit a behavior. Stopping to pain. No, sorry. Continuing to pain, and stopping to pleasure. So I've really got in touch with the pain of continuing this behavior. Now let's get in touch with the pleasure of stopping the behavior. So then I can ask another question. Write it down. How will my life be now that I've quit? How will my life be 10 years from now? And get in touch with the pleasure of that. So me, for example, just another 10 years of doing awesome shit. I'll have booming businesses. I'll be feeling great, physically healthy. I'll have great relationships, living in a big house somewhere, maybe by the beach, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, get in touch with the pleasure of that. And I did that recently with waking up. So for such a long time, my tendency would be to set my alarm for a certain time, and then just when that goes off, just snooze button, like 6 times, maybe get up like a few hours later than I had originally wanted to. And that was such a common thing for me, extremely regular. And yeah, and the fact that I work online, it's kind of like my schedule's flexible, so I kind of can do that, but still it's not good for me and it doesn't make me feel good, and I get less done and less sunlight throughout the day, and etc. I get up late and then I feel just kind of rushed, like I'm behind, and so fuck that. And feeling like that for another 10 years is shit. So I wrote my way into the pain to experience the pain. And so I did this yesterday, in fact. Once I get this sorted, or like now that I'm in fully control of my sleeping, what time I get up, blah blah blah. How will my life be in 10 years with this continuous habit, and just get in touch with all the pleasure of that. So yeah, that's how I use pain to break free from addictions, break free from behaviors that aren't serving me, and also form new behaviors that I want to adopt into my lifestyle, but there is resistance to doing these behaviors even once, if not consistently. So this is very effective. I invite you to try it, and I would love to hear your results.